With Apple having just released a whole load of new sound library content, I'm getting this question a lot. Can you use Apple loops in your projects without worrying about copyright? It doesn't matter if you're using GarageBand on your iPhone or iPad, or GarageBand or even Logic Pro on Mac. Apple make it perfectly clear that as long as you aren't repackaging and reselling the sounds that they provide in these programs as your own, you're free to use them in your projects, commercial or otherwise. They're completely royalty free, and as such you definitely won't run into any copyright issues if you decide to use Apple loops in your released projects. Right? It's not that simple. The first time I got a copyright notice, it scared the bejesus out of me. I was just floating around YouTube one day, as you do, when I noticed a notification on my channel's copyright tab. I immediately checked it out, and to my dismay, someone had claimed that a portion of one of my videos used their music in it. The issue? Well, I'd created that background music using Apple loops from GarageBand. Luckily, I was able to dispute the claim. I essentially pointed out that Apple makes these sounds available on a royalty-free basis and linked to the page on Apple's website where it says so. But why does this happen in the first place? Well, platforms like YouTube, SoundCloud, and Facebook have Content ID algorithms that are supposed to automatically detect when a copyright violation has taken place. At the moment, though, these automated copyright detection systems are, to put it mildly, less than perfect. In fact, the problem is so bad that most music distribution companies will not allow you to release music through them that includes Apple loops. So, does this mean that you should never ever use any Apple created sounds in the projects that you plan to release then? No, of course not. But I would recommend that you take the time to tweak the sound of any Apple created loops or patches that you plan to use in your project so that they won't sound exactly the same as somebody else's who's used them in their projects. The easiest way to change the overall feel of an Apple loop without really changing its bass sound is to simply chop it up and then put it back together again. You can do this really easily on both GarageBand for iOS and GarageBand for Mac. I'll show you here in GarageBand for iOS, but as I say, it's exactly the same method on Mac. I have this loop here. If I play back, you can listen to what it sounds like. So if I move the playhead to this point and then choose to split the region, and then move the playhead again and split it again, I can then remove this section and move the two other parts together, and then put this section at another point along that track's timeline. And then when I play it back, it kind of retains the character of that original loop, but doesn't sound exactly the same as the stock version of it. If the loop you want to use is a MIDI loop or a green software instrument loop to give it its name in GarageBand, you can change it up really easily as well. If we jump over to GarageBand for Mac this time, if I select the region I want to edit and then open the editor window by hitting the scissors icon in the top left, I can simply come down and click and drag on individual notes in this MIDI loop to change things up a bit. This is really easy to do in GarageBand for iOS as well. Just double tap on any green MIDI region you want to edit and select, surprisingly enough, Edit to get to the piano roll. Sticking with MIDI loops for a second, you can change the overall way that they sound without even having to edit the notes by simply assigning it a new software instrument. Staying in GarageBand for Mac here, again, the same process works in exactly the same way in GarageBand for iOS. If I create a new software instrument track and pick a different instrument from the one that is currently assigned to play back this software instrument loop, and then click, drag, and drop the original MIDI loop into the new software instrument track I've created, the same notes will play back, but with the new instrument that I have selected. Finally, if all that sounds like a bit too much like hard work, you can simply slap a load of effects onto an existing Apple loop, and that should be enough to change the sound of it that it won't trigger any Content ID shenanigans. In GarageBand for iOS here, if I just open up the track settings by hitting the icon at the top there, and then head down to Plugins and EQ, and then press Edit, I can add effects that Apple have available here or any third-party AUV3 effects that I have available to this loop. You can keep things as straightforward or as crazy as you want here. Effects like distortion, echo, delay will all significantly change the sound of the stock Apple loop that you are applying it to. So next time you plan to use any royalty-free Apple sounds in a project that you plan to release, consider using one of the techniques I've outlined here to make sure you avoid any copyright nonsense. If you want to get your hands on some shiny new sounds that you can chop up and mangle to your heart's content, then check out this lot. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.